Imagine a circle of people crouched beside a fire long before cities, calendars, or written names. The night is cold. Predators are beyond the glow. The flames crackle, sparks jump into the dark, and smoke keeps drifting into somebody's face. At first, that smoke is only a nuisance. It stings the eyes, scratches the throat, and makes everyone shift places. But then, at some forgotten moment, a different kind of smoke rises from a different kind of plant, and someone notices something strange. Their body relaxes, their thoughts change shape, fear softens, the dark feels less hostile, and one of our ancestors, without language for chemistry or ritual, makes a very human connection. That plant, when burned, does something. That may be the real beginning of smoking. Not the cigarette outside a gas station, not cigars in old movies, not the modern image of a habit wrapped in warning labels. We are talking about the first deliberate breath taken from burning plant matter. The first time smoke stopped being accidental and became intentional. To understand that moment, we have to start with fire. Humans did not simply discover fire like someone finding a lighter in a drawer. We lived with it, learned it, feared it, protected it, and eventually built our lives around it. Evidence from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa suggests controlled fire was being used around 1 million years ago, long before modern Homo sapiens existed. Those early humans were not building empires or writing myths. They were staying warm, cooking food, gathering in groups, and inhaling smoke every night because there was no way not to. For thousands upon thousands of generations, smoke was part of the human environment. It clung to hair and skin, it filled shelters, it followed the wind. And when plants burn, they do not all produce the same invisible cloud. Different leaves, resin, seeds, and woods release different compounds. Some smell sweet, some repel insects, some poison you, and some affect the nervous system in ways that are impossible to ignore. That is where the story gets fascinating. A prehistoric campfire was not always just burning clean firewood. It could have swallowed wild herbs, vines, flowers, seeds, roots, or shrubs growing nearby. A stray branch of a psychoactive plant thrown into the flames might have changed the mood of everyone sitting downwind. Nobody needed to know the word cannabinoid. Nobody needed a lab. The lesson was simple. When that particular plant smokes, the mind feels different. Over time, accident becomes memory. Memory becomes practice. Practice becomes tradition. This is why smoking probably did not begin as a neatly invented custom. It likely emerged from repeated observation. Early humans were extraordinary pattern detectors. That ability kept them alive. If a berry made you sick, you avoided it. If a root eased pain, you remembered it. If a smoke made sleep easier, fear lighter, or vision stronger, you paid attention. Now the hard part is evidence. Stone tools survive almost forever. Burned seeds, dried leaves, wooden tubes, leather pouches, and woven bags usually vanish. Archaeology is brilliant, but it is also unfair. It favors stone, bone, pottery, and metal. The delicate things that would tell us the most about ancient smoking often disappeared before history ever had a chance to preserve them. Still, some traces remain. One of the oldest strong clues for tobacco use comes from Utah's Great Salt Lake Desert, where researchers found wild tobacco seeds in a hearth dated to roughly 12,000 years ago. That does not prove someone was taking neat ceremonial puffs like a later pipe smoker, but it does suggest people were bringing tobacco into fire contexts thousands of years earlier than older theories allowed. And once you see that, the imagination opens. If people in North America were experimenting with tobacco smoke that far back, what were humans elsewhere doing with cannabis, henbane, mugwort, or other local plants? The oldest direct evidence for ritual cannabis inhalation is much later, around 500 BC, in the Pamir Mountains of Central Asia. Archaeologists found wooden braziers with heated stones and cannabis residue, including plants with unusually high psychoactive strength. This was not rope fiber or a random weed in a cooking pit. It was placed in a funerary setting, which means smoke was part of ceremony, grief, transition, or communication with something beyond ordinary life. Ancient writers help fill in the picture. Herodotus described the Scythians using hemp in enclosed tents, tossing it onto hot stones, breathing the vapor, and reacting with intense pleasure. For a long time, people treated that description like ancient travel gossip. Then excavations found the tools and residues that matched the account. The old historian, for once, was not just being dramatic. He was watching a smoke ritual. Tobacco follows a different road because it belongs to the Americas. Before transatlantic contact, Europe, Asia, and Africa did not know tobacco as the world later knew it. When Columbus and his crew encountered indigenous people in the Caribbean, they saw men and women inhaling smoke from dried leaves. The Europeans were confused, curious, and almost immediately tempted, which is painfully on brand for human beings. But in indigenous American cultures, tobacco was not originally just something to pass time with. It could be medicine offering prayer, diplomacy, protection, or a bridge between the human and spirit worlds. Smoke carried meaning. It moved upward. It touched the body and then vanished into the unseen. In that worldview, a person did not simply consume tobacco, they handled power. That difference matters. A sacred plant used with discipline is not the same thing as a mass-produced cigarette designed for daily dependence. The plant did not change. The system around it did. Before modern industry flattened smoking into a commercial habit, inhaled smoke had many roles. In ancient Egypt, medical texts described the use of heated herbs and smoke for certain ailments. Greek physicians wrote about therapeutic vapors. Ayurvedic traditions in India included dhumapana, often translated as medicinal smoke drinking, with rules about plants, timing, and conditions. From a modern health perspective, inhaling smoke sounds like exactly the wrong answer, and often it is. But the ancient logic was not random. If the lungs are the problem and smoke reaches the lungs quickly, then medicated vapor seemed like a direct route. We still use the lungs as a delivery pathway today, through inhalers, nebulizers, and anesthetic gases. We just learned to remove the burning part whenever possible. Smoking also served another ancient function, bonding. Humans survived because groups held together. Shared danger, shared food, shared stories, shared rhythm, and shared ritual all helped create trust. A smoke ceremony could synchronize emotion. It could mark a healing, a death, a treaty, a hunt, an initiation, or a night when the tribe needed to feel like one body instead of many frightened individuals. In that sense, smoke was not entertainment, it was social technology. This connects to a larger idea some researchers call the drive for intoxication. Across cultures, people have found ways to alter consciousness: fermented drink, mushrooms, chewed leaves, fumes, seeds, resins, and smoke. Even animals seek altered states. The point is not that every ancient person was chasing a high like a bored teenager. The point is deeper. Consciousness itself became something humans learned to explore, adjust, and ritualize. Smoke was one of the oldest tools for doing that because fire was already there. Then came the disaster of scale. Once tobacco entered European trade networks, its meaning changed fast. What had been sacred, medicinal, diplomatic, or ceremonial became a product. Pipes, snuff, cigars, and finally machine-made cigarettes turned smoke into a global business. The industrial cigarette was cheap, portable, consistent, and brutally efficient at delivering nicotine. In the 20th century, companies pushed it with glamour, doctors, athletes, movie stars, and advertising aimed at young people. They knew more about the dangers than they admitted, and they kept selling anyway. That is the moral split in this story. A shaman placing a plant on hot stones during a burial and an executive selling addictive cigarettes to teenagers may both be working with smoke, but they are not participating in the same human act. One belongs to ritual meaning, the other belongs to extraction. So when did humans first smoke? The honest answer is that nobody can name the first person, the first plant, or the first night. The physical record takes us back thousands of years, maybe to tobacco in hearths 12,000 years ago, while the behavior itself may be far older. It may reach back to the earliest relationship between humans and fire. What we can say is this: smoking began before factories, before brands, before lunch breaks, before empires, and probably before farming. It began when humans noticed that breath, flame, and plant could change the body, the mind, the group, or the meaning of a moment. And that is the haunting part. Beneath all the modern damage, marketing, addiction, and disease, there is an ancient thread. Fire, smoke, breath, a person watching the dark, a plant changing in the flames, a mind recognizing a pattern. The same species that built satellites and streaming platforms once sat beside a fire and learned that the air itself could carry medicine, visions, comfort, danger, memory, and mystery. So the next time wood smoke drifts across a campsite or a bonfire smell follows you home on your clothes, remember this: you are smelling one of humanity's oldest classrooms. Around fires we learned warmth, food, fear, stories, ritual, medicine, intoxication, and each other. Somewhere in that smoky circle, before history started writing things down, humans learned to breathe on purpose.